Welcome back to the third session in this series with ITESOFT Insider View. My name's Alan Brown. I'm taking you through this series. We're starting off this series on the 5 things to remember when you're detailing your AP process. Week 1 was, have you actually defined the ownership of the process steps? Week 2, how do you handle invoice discrepancies? And this week, or this session, we're going to be talking about receiving multiple PO invoices and why. So there's going to be in this session a few more questions about what's happening that I'm looking for you to take away to challenge internally about how you are currently operating your organisation. So, excuse me, this is all about getting information down, essentially, for lack of a better phrase, on a piece of paper that has a level of detail to it. We're focusing on PO invoices. Most organisations have a level of purchase orders within their organisation, so they will receive, in a lot of cases, let's say it's a 50-50 split, it's what I would feel I would generally come across, where they get one PO and one invoice coming in to match that purchase order. There are, in certain specific industries, the situation where they will receive multiple PO invoices, and as a byproduct of that, it causes an increasing level of frustration within the AP department about how they deal with these, how they manage these. So when we are detailing your existing process, then at the start of the project we're looking to find out certain information and really drilling down into each of these aspects of it. So, from your point of view, do you receive them at all? Now, if you don't receive multiple POs, invoices, then that's fine. You can essentially forget about this segment of the series because it's not going to be relevant for you. But if you get a small proportion, let's carry on. Because why are you receiving them like that? Who benefits by you receiving them the way that your supplier is currently sending them in? Especially if you're getting frustration in your AP team, how is that helping your AP team when you're getting the purchase orders and receiving multiple POs on one invoice coming through that's creating more problems for yourselves, which means that it's going to have more time and costs associated to it? So, do you know why you're receiving them like that? Has anyone ever questioned them? And more importantly, what are the workarounds that you have in place? Is it just for that one supplier, or is that for multiple suppliers that you're receiving that for? How many of the invoices that you get as a proportion overall, is it the 80-20 rule? 80% of your PO invoices coming in are absolutely fine, and 20% are multiple PO invoices coming in on one PO or one invoice? Or is it much greater? And I've come across other organisations where they have, it could be complete flip of that, where 80% of the PO invoices that get come in as multiple POs on the one invoice, which creates huge amounts of issues. So, are they really necessary? Are they really needed within your organisation to be delivered to you the way that they are being delivered? Now, the reason, part of the reason why I throw this question out to you is because, have you actually spoken with your vendors about why they are sending these types of invoices to you? Are your vendors aware of what problems that potentially causes you? And have you actually spoken internally with your AP team to be able to understand how much time do they take when they're dealing with these invoices? Is that on a daily basis? Is that on a weekly basis? Is that only at certain times of the month that is going to happen and come across? Excuse me. Then we're looking at what are the sort of impacts that has, not just within AP, but what's the impact into other parts of the business to be able to process that. We're talking about some of the fundamentals here that will ultimately go into your business case as part of why you're looking to be able to put automation in place or a different process at the very minimum. That's going to be things like time. How much time is dealt in the business dealing with these multiple POs that come through, because we don't know currently how you're going to be dealing with that in the business. What sort of cost is associated to this? Because one of the things that we come across with this, cost is a relative term from this perspective when we're talking about detailing it. But do you, if you've got a discrepancy or you've got a problem with one of the POs on that invoice, does that impact any of the other invoices that are, or the POs that are on that invoice? Or do you just ignore, that one discrepancy and we'll deal with that later? So that then means you've got, other aspects that need to be dealt with within that hadn't been considered previously. What happens to payments as part of that, or even any payment delays that may happen? Does that whole one invoice that's got multiple POs on it get delayed, or is it just that one PO that gets delayed? I generally find most organisations haven't thought that one through well enough and don't generally have a policy in place, unless there is some pressure within the business that says this is why we're going to be pushing this through far faster and far harder when they are. So a lot of organisations, when they are receiving these multiple purchase orders, how do you break this down internally? Do you have specialised teams within AP that will deal with this? It's a bit like when a supplier sends through a statement, does that go to a specific team? Do you have specific people skilled up for that? Because if you've got specific people skilled up for that, well, where's what happens when that person's either off ill or off on holiday? You need to have multiple people skilled up. Why do you need to be dealing with this in the first place? So being able to detail this and have the visibility and understanding at a reasonably low level of why it happens, how often it happens, is really important. This helps you to also bring on board your AP team to be able to talk through in detail about what happens and get them to buy into what you're trying to do outside of the automation. It could be about a change of process. It could be about a change of standards that you're putting in place from that perspective. I've touched on looking at automation. So when you're looking at automation of the AP function, and that's fundamentally one of the aspects that ITESOFT provides as an organisation, these invoices cause a real issue and potential blockage within the organisation, and can even result in a project failing to meet its business case. And therefore, why would you set yourselves up potentially for a failure without actually taking some of these aspects into consideration? Because you could potentially deal with this either at a supplier perspective or from an automation perspective. It might even be a combination of both. But what you're looking to be able to do here is you've detailed it. You can then demonstrate internally, further and higher up the chain, that you've gone into detail. You're able to communicate this meaningfully in a way that says this is why it is a problem, or also this is why it's not a problem because it doesn't happen often enough, for instance. So I'm going to finish this session off now. You've got lots of questions here that I have thrown out to you to be able to deal with. Let's just do a quick review of these again. Firstly, do you receive multiple purchase order invoices? Why? And do you know where and how often that happens? How many invoices is that you get? How many vendors does this cover? Could be all of them, it could just be a very small segment. Why are they necessary within your organisation? And what is the cost? And when I say cost, in this case I'm talking about the impact. So what's the impact on the business to be able to process these in an efficient and effective manner from the AP perspective? Time, cost, etc., etc. Guys, love to hear your feedback on this at some point. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.